never wanted this world to be the way that it has been shown. I know that I can't change what's wrong. The damage can't be undone. On the verge of a breakdown, I can feel it in my bones. On the verge of a breakdown, I don't wanna lose control. So please don't leave me all alone in this world, with no one there to call for help. I can't stop thinking I'm losing against the war inside myself. On the verge of a breakdown, I can feel it in my bones. On the verge of a breakdown, I don't wanna lose control. So please don't leave me I never wanted this world to be the way that it has become. I know that I can't change what's wrong. The damage can't be undone. On the verge of a breakdown, I can feel it in my bones. On the verge of a breakdown, I don't wanna lose control. So please don't leave me all alone.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Ben Bronco. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the What Did I Say show? The show where we hold our predictions accountable from the I'm No Joe podcast and bring you all the recaps from the fun events that have taken place over the course of the weekend. Before we jump too deep into it there, as is the case so far more often than not, I've got the young gunner himself here with me. How you doing this evening, RJ?
Doing pretty good, man. I've had a good day. Pretty excited to be here since I wasn't here on the Thursday show. My roof in my bathroom is pissing onto my toilet. So
Literally.
yeah, I had to figure out what I can do to make that stop. So that was great. In the words of Meter, my roof in the bathroom needs to be potty trained.
Yeah. Well, glad you got the situation at least handled temporarily.
Yeah. I have
So
I have 3 pots in my bathroom that I have to dump daily because I can't fucking fix the leak. So I have somebody coming in tomorrow to fix it.
It could be much worse though. Could be much worse.
Very much so. I could have completely frozen pipes in my entire house.
That's right. That's what we went through last year. We replaced about 85% of the pipes in our house last year because as we were replacing them and turning the water back on, the other old pieces of pipes further throughout the house were exploding, literally. So we ended up doing that last winter. So I definitely understand how much that sucks. So that being said, last night was the first official UFC pay-per-view of the year, UFC 270. For those of you who did not catch it, we did do a full breakdown and lead into UFC 270 on Thursday, so you can hop back in the library and check that out. For those of you who were lucky enough to catch it, this was a very mixed bag of just shenaniganry all the way around on UFC 270. It was the first pay-per-view of the year. It was the first pay-per-view under the new ESPN raised guideline pricing for $75 a pop. And it just honestly wasn't a great pay-per-view card to begin with. Overall, top to bottom, there was best case scenario 3 or 4 fights that belonged on any main card, pay-per-view or fight night, and then a whole lot of fillers. So we'll jump right in at the top here. We did get 2 fights pulled from the card on Friday evening and Saturday morning. So they rearranged the card twice publicly before they actually determined the final organization of the card. Originally, they had pulled the Kay Hansen, Jasmine, Juicy to Vicious fight off the early prelims and put it on the main card when the first fight dropped off. When the second fight dropped off, they put it right back in the beginning of the fucking card and moved the Trevor Giles fight to the main card. So we did end up opening up with Kay Hansen versus Jasmine, Juicy to Vicious. I gotta say, I did not realize coming into this fight that this was Kay Hansen moving up in weight. I was just under the assumption, looking at it, that it was Jasmine making her strawweight debut. Not the case. This was Kay Hansen's first official fight at 125, and it was apparent very, very early on that she is absolutely too small for 125 pounds. Kay Hansen is very, very, very talented. We've seen her come out with all kinds of fucking potential, but in this situation, I have a feeling that something was going on with maybe her training partners or something that she was training for 115 at, or maybe it was a coach who just thought he knew what was best, and it turns out was very wrong. But flyweight is not the place for Kay Hansen. Her skills transferred over decently, but when it came to just sheer mass and being able to move the volume of Jasmine off of her in those situations, she just couldn't. And you could see the frustration on her face. It wasn't for lack of trying, but Jasmine makes her debut in the UFC and gets a unanimous decision out, pointing Kay Hansen all the way across the board. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure where exactly the idea to go up to 25 came from. Maybe 115 is hard for her to make, but based on these results, I would say it's time to either change up the diet and make 115 a little easier, or time to bulk up if you're actually going to stay at 125, because that was not a great performance last night.
Yeah, at least for me watching it, her big thing for me to look at and watch was the height difference. That played a massive factor in ground game, because Hansen she's rather small.
Yeah, she's a girl.
And you have somebody that is got some fucking height on you. Whenever you play on the ground, it is tenfold harder to make transitions, to really do anything, because long limbs, longer upper body, longer legs. She had perfect placement, how you're supposed to do everything with securing the legs, isolating the legs, so it's harder to make top transitions. She had everything perfect, but just the simple fact that fucking, how do you say that woman's last name?
Joshua Vicious, I believe, is how they were saying it last night.
What she was just making everything just that much harder because, okay, you're isolating my legs, but I can move at the waist, and she was just rotating her upper body the entire way around just to get around her with her height advantage. I think going forward, Hansen has a very good skill set for the weight division. Her thing is going to be size. She does absolutely need to bulk up. And she needs to know how to get around somebody with a decent height advantage over her, especially when it's playing the ground game. Because Hansen she showed last night she can hold her own when it comes to playing the ground game. She's
Even being outside, she was still holding on pretty damn well.
Yeah, she's rather well rounded. She has some things to iron out and some holes to fix, but I mean, she didn't look. Neither one of them looked bad at all in that fight. They looked. No. Both of those ladies looked pretty fucking good, and that's really good to see, especially in the women's side of the division, because a lot of them are just hot and cold. That was a really good fucking performance that both of them put on.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Hansen either bulks up, she'll be okay at 125. Otherwise, she's really got to get whatever it is, the nutrition or the fucking exercise routine during the weight cut transferred in and dialed in, because I honestly think she'd do a lot better at 115, but she clearly showed that she can hold her own against girls at 125 if she just puts a little more mass on, I think.
Yeah.
That being said, though, that'll bring us into the other fight, since there was now only two on the early prelims. Ironically enough, both of the ladies' fights got left on the early prelims, which seemed real fucking weird unto itself. But Silvana Juarez versus Vanessa Demopolis. Oh, man. I got to say, Demopolis has jiu-jitsu skills. That is undeniable. What she doesn't seem to have is very good striking defense, because she was getting fucking pieced up until that fight managed to get to the ground so she could secure that fucking submission. She was getting fucking bodied early on. She spent the better part of that 2.5 minutes of that fight getting the shit beat out of her and very little time securing that submission. She got rocked real hard, real early on. But the setup that she used to secure the submission itself was just absolutely smooth as can be.
Chef's kiss.
Is one of those. What's that?
I said chef's kiss on the setup.
No. This is one of those situations where she showed, in my opinion, that the knowledge is there, but the discipline isn't yet. She's got the techniques in her head, but she just was clearly flustered in the moment. Bonus points for the post-fight interview and the Rogan hop. I'm sure Mrs. Rogan was punching air at home, but I don't know. Again, Juarez is one of those fucking soup can series nobodies that should not have gotten as much hype off the win for Demopolis as it did. But, you know, early on, first finish of the night, she hopped in Rogan's arms. So I get it. I get it. Not that impressed with her, honestly. If she can make it out of her next first round, specifically without eating an almost fight-ending punch, we can talk. But as of right now, that was the flukiest thing since Flukes came to Fluketown, in my opinion. I almost feel worse for Silvana Juarez, because she came out doing everything right and clearly just did not anticipate this being a jiu-jitsu match, because it was very much a mistake in the transition that led to the setup for the choke. But man, I'm almost more excited to see what Silvana Juarez is going to do next than I am to see what Vanessa Demopolis is going to do next, just because of how poorly that fucking fight managed to almost stumble into victory for her.
Yeah, I'm not really upset at it. I do understand the way people are looking at it. She did get fucking rocked. Uh, but her setup was absolutely fucking spectacular. And on both of their sides, even both those ladies, they did a really good job on the ground. But stepping into it, fight starts. Fucking war. Oh, she do that. Demopolis is getting fucking worked. Just no way around it. She was getting worked. Both of them looked really hesitant, swinging for most of the entire stand-up portion of that until Demopolis got dropped. But her transition to a rubber guard style armbar setup was fucking beautiful because she started to work it and fighting with the legs, went to slip her right leg over, pulled it back, and really quick pulled her left leg over just to fake it out. That was beautiful setup. And even the what is it, Juarez, she was jamming her arm down at an angle, exactly what you're supposed to do whenever you
crunching her up, trying to push through it. Yeah,
exactly what you're supposed to do whenever you get put in that position. She did that perfectly. She was just swiveling on her knees, just pushing her arm down. She did that perfect. What messed her up was Demopolis turned one way and then real quick threw her weight the other way, and Juarez just lost the pressure and just got folded over. Both that was a beautiful fucking setup. I would like to see if she could pull something like this off again, just to put down the statement like, hey, this wasn't a fluke. Right. But I do agree. Demopolis really needs to put together the hand and footwork and striking. You can see that she was trying.
Yeah,
she was trying. She just needs to dial that in, spend a bit more of her next her next camp, and even leading into her next camp, just fucking running boxing drills, boxing kicks, boxing something.
Getting strikes thrown at you and avoidance.
Yeah, she really needs to drill that sort of stuff because she definitely has the skill set and the knowledge there where she can be pretty fucking dangerous in the strawweight division. She can be real fucking dangerous. Real
interesting. It's going to be real interesting to see what the UFC does with both of them going forward, I think.
Definitely.
Moving forward from there, though, that'll roll us into the normal prelims. Matt Fravolba versus Gennaro Valdez. There was some interesting matches on the card Saturday night, but this might be the craziest first round we have seen in a hot minute. I would absolutely say it was the craziest first round of 2022 so far, but even a little further back than that, these two came out and just went absolutely ape shit from the fucking get-go. To his credit, Valdez landed some real good fucking shots, but for the most part, this is absolutely the best we have seen Matt Fravolba look since he signed with the UFC. He was in the fucking phone booth in the middle of the firefight, giving and digging, but still had presence of mind to slip and stay just out of range for most of Valdez's shots and ended up just absolutely shutting the fucking show down. I have a strong feeling that if we would have seen him come out like this, he probably would have beat the shit out of Pena, and those two might be in very polar different positions in their career right now.
Yeah, there's so many things that I have to say that is wrong with not with what you said, because what you said is correct. It is very fucking accurate. My only problem is I'm gonna call it. The only reason why Fravolba won this isn't because he was just out of range. It's because that motherfucker was doing what we call in the military suppression by numbers. He was throwing 10 fucking shots to his one. The sheer pressure he was putting on him allowed him to do whatever the fuck he wanted in that first round. That was a beautiful, beautiful fucking first round. That really kind of set me off. I like, holy shit, this is gonna be pretty good fucking card. My only problem is Matt Fravolba could have done this in probably a minute fucking less. If he stopped wasting time, energy, and accuracy and precision, instead of throwing real wide, scooping jab or hooks and kind of scooping jabs, and just threw from the shoulder like you're supposed to do. He was throwing just real wide. That defeats the purpose of fucking throwing a hook. If you're throwing wide, throw wide here, not out here.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so UFC does have the numbers up for this fight. I was wondering if they had them posted yet. In the span of, what was it, 3 minutes that fight lasted, total strikes by Fravolba, 71 landed out of 114 at a 62% clip. For Valdez, he landed 10 of 38.
And how many significance did Fravolba have?
60 of 71. Or excuse me, they're calling it 60 of 101. Excuse me, 101 significant strikes thrown, 60 of them landed. So of 71 strikes that he landed, 60 of them were significant. For Valdez, 10 of 38 total strikes landed. 10 of, what the fuck number is? It's not even. Here we go. 10 of 38. So they're calling all 10 of his shots that landed. 10 of 38 were total strikes. 10 of 38 were his significant. So they're calling everything that Valdez threw was a significant strike. And he still only landed 10 of them versus 71 total, 60 of them being significant for Fravolba in the same fight.
Yeah. So yeah, that like he really did just suppression by numbers.
Yeah,
that
literally
was
6-1 all the way across the board on this fucking
that
match.
was his game plan. His hands looked very sloppy. He absolutely had power there. His kicks were snappy. Those things were crisp. But his hands, man, that he could have ended that in a minute, maybe even a minute and a half quicker if he just picked his shot, let it fly, and don't scoop out. Don't bring your whole arm up. Just pop out from the shoulder. That wasted so much time and probably a good bit of fucking energy and accuracy for him. But I mean, he still got the job done. That was a
right.
Great fucking job. But he could have done that so much more efficiently.
I agree. I will say it's nice to see Fravolba evolving, not letting that fucking severe ragdolling by Violent Bob Ross get to his fucking head, because he's come back from that and just been on a fucking tear. So it's nice to see Fravolba back in the W column and seemingly on a fucking roll now. Moving along from there, that'll bring us to Tony. Now, see, this confused the shit out of me because I heard multiple people during the broadcast pronounce it both ways. They both pronounced it Gravely and Gravely. So I have no idea how the fuck he actually says it. This isn't quite as bad as the Billy Quarantillo situation, but this is another one that's fucking confusing as shit because it's either Tony Gravely or Tony Gravely. Either way, versus Simone Oliveira. Coming into this, Oliveira said that Gravely, whatever, Tony had no ground game and that he was going to just choke him out with a guillotine as soon as he got the opportunity. That did not turn out to be a lie. I believe at the end of the match, they said that Oliveira had tried a total of 15 different separate guillotine attempts throughout the match. None of them remotely close to successful. So this to me was a perfect example of what happens when a dude falls in love with one thing that he does that works very well one time. Because then for whatever reason in his head, that's his thing. And he's going to do that to everybody. And this was a perfect example of that, where Oliveira came in and was just convinced he was going to guillotine Gravely. And to be fair, Gravely put himself in a position to be guillotined several fucking times. I don't know if that's because he knew that Oliveira wanted to try and guillotine him, or if that's just how Gravely fights and Oliveira had read that. But Gravely kept putting himself in the position, and Oliveira just kept throwing that fucking arm around the neck and trying to lock it up. Could not fucking sink it, could not seize it. You could see an entire arm's worth of space around Gravely's neck every single time that fucking guillotine got put in. It was never once set properly, and you could see him squeeze every fucking time, just burning fucking gas for no goddamn reason. Sure enough, end of the night, Gravely did enough to negate all those 15 goddamn submission attempts or guillotine attempts and still got the fucking unanimous decision.
So I can kind of run down exactly why I watched every single one of those 15 guillotine attempts. And I can tell you exactly why each one failed. And it's all because of the same fucking reason. His arm is out here. You want your arm tucked inside. You want to try and get your elbow to touch your rib cage. His arms were way out here. You want to grab and pull in, so you're pulling them up into your fucking armpit. He is pulling up. He's more or less trying to just do an air choke, essentially.
Right, yeah, he was almost setting it up more of a bulldog than he was a fucking guillotine.
Yeah, he was just trying to set up an air choke submission attempt.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
Which, to be fair, if that's what you're going to do, go for it. But if you're going to do a guillotine, the only time your elbow should be out here is literally the half second before you go like this.
Yeah. You want his head as deep inside of your armpit as you possibly can. That's how you fucking get the most amount of force to crush their fucking throat. But his arms were just way too chicken winged out, and the first one, he had a split second to where it was locked in good. And then he moved, and it's like his arms stayed still and his body shifted. Yep. And ever since that moment, every single attempt that he had for a guillotine was negated from the fact that his arms aren't in the right position to put a guillotine into place.
Yep. So on one hand, props to Tony Gravely for just fucking wearing it out and knowing that none of those guillotines were really going to be threatening enough to fucking do a problem. On the other hand, man, if Oliveira wants to have more than one more fight in the UFC, you better go back to the fucking drawing board. That's what I'm saying. Because I don't give a fuck who or how many times you've landed that fucking guillotine on someone in training. Training ain't the fucking UFC, and you are clearly not as good at that as you seem to think that you are. So if he can go back and literally start from scratch and rebuild, there could be a chance for Oliveira. But if he's really got it that set in his head that he's quote unquote the guillotine guy, dude, one more fight and another fucking decent striker is just going to pummel the shit out of him, and they're going to send him to fucking PFL. Excuse me. That being said, there is something to be said, something genuinely noteworthy for a guy who blindly accepts a fight on 3 days' notice. You have to give a guy a certain amount of respect for being willing to step up, make weight, and show up to fight someone you had no chance to train for. Literally, dude had enough time to get to California, make weight, and then fight. That was it. So props for getting there, being ready, stepping up on short notice. On the other hand, we talk about this all the fucking time. All the good grace you win for stepping up on short notice goes right out the window if you're not actually ready to step up on short notice, because there's no shortage of bodies the UFC could put in place of a fucking last minute cancellation like this. But if you're making your debut, you should make goddamn good and sure you are 100% ready for anyone they could fucking throw at you. And poor Pete Rodriguez, man, he's absolutely got my respect for showing up on 3 days and fucking being ready to go. But god damn, if he was just 100% fucking green behind the ears all the way down the board. Now, to be fair, Jack Della Maddalena has been one of those very hyped Australian prospects for a hot minute and showed very clearly last night why. But a lot of that, in my opinion, was the fact that Rodriguez just could not stop the fucking jab. The left jab of Jack Della Maddalena had Rodriguez's nose flattened and pushed off to the side in less than a minute of the fight. He had landed so many clean, crisp, straight down the fucking pipe jabs that he had already busted Pete's nose in a minute into the fucking fight. We don't need another aluminum mic. There's no reason we should have to have somebody getting a fucking nose job after every time we see him in the octagon. And that's exactly the path that Pete Rodriguez was setting himself up on last night. I understand that a certain percentage of that is, again, because he was making his debut and on 3 days notice, but that was a fucking poor showing, even all things considered, in my opinion. That being said, though, I don't know that we really saw that much well-roundedness out of Maddalena. We definitely saw he's got a strong fucking left jab and a clean right hook, and he can counter pretty fucking good. But I have a feeling that was a very generous debut for Maddalena as well, giving him the short notice Rodriguez, who clearly wasn't ready for him. I don't know. This isn't one of those situations like we had a little while ago. I don't know that we're going to get to see a whole lot more well-roundedness from Rodriguez based on how that fight went. But I do still think there is a chance to see a little more of what Maddalena's got in his toolbox based on how well he performed in the fight last night.
Yeah, my only problem with it is from the jump, Rodriguez fucking dehydrated the living shit out of himself because he was out of it. He was out before the fight started. He was not, that man just was not fucking there from the get. I mean, which sucks, but if you aren't ready and if you're not in a position to where you're a couple pounds, you can do a water cut for a couple fucking pounds. That's safe. You're not going to dehydrate yourself. Sit in a fucking sauna, hit an ice bath, jump back into the fucking sauna. You'll cut a couple pounds off in an hour, real fucking quick doing that. Or even just a hot bath, jumping into an ice bath, then back into a hot bath. Shit, you can cut that water weight real quick and real fucking safe doing either one of those those methods. But that was just piss poor. Like that kid was just fucking out of it. He should not have been able to fucking fight. He was out of it from the fucking jump. Maddalena, that man has one of the best fucking jabs I've seen in a good long while. That being said, if that was a well, healthy, prepared fighter, I guarantee about 90% of those jabs wouldn't have fucking landed. So there goes
it was a weird match all the way around. Not the worst that we saw by any means, but definitely a little odd to say the least.
Oh, definitely.
Now, that on the other hand will bring us to the quote unquote premier prelim match for the evening. Hayani Barcelos versus Victor Henry. We talked about this one Thursday. This is one of those fights that they booked and it got scrapped, and they booked again and it got scrapped, and they had to book it a third time. But there's no real logic as to why this particular fight had to be made. We were literally just waiting for Victor Henry to make his debut, and it could have been against anyone. There's no reason it had to be set in stone against Hayani Barcelos. That being said, I'm betting this morning they kind of wished that they would have taken another fight the first time the fight fell through, because I got to say, we've seen Hayani Barcelos come out and look damn good. And for a guy making his debut, Victor Henry came out last night and looked like he'd been in the UFC for 3 years already. He was cool and calm under fire, and he just outworked Barcelos everywhere the fight went. When it was standing, he was out striking him. When it was on the ground, he was outworking him and outmaneuvering him. It just, I agree with it going to, or with it being the unanimous decision, even though Barcelos tried to say that he did enough that it should have been at least one round in his favor. I don't agree with that. I don't know if this was just a bad showing for Barcelos or if he just really underestimated Victor Henry that much, because Henry really did look great everywhere that the fight went, everywhere that he had a chance to show out, he really did a little bit. I'm not sure if that's because Barcelos just wasn't ready or if he's just that much better than anybody thought he was, but welcome to the UFC, Victor Henry. He looked like a fucking stud last night, in my opinion.
I mean, both them boys went out there and did fucking work. That's a fucking guarantee and a half right there. Them boys went out there and got the fuck after it. Both of them were super fucking impressive. Was it what is it? Henry and Barcelos. Barcelos, that man got rocked a lot. That's one tough son bitch, because that man was gonna,
He wore through it.
He fucking got through it, but that's a motherfucker you gotta be careful, you gotta watch, because that's the bitch that's gonna die on his shield in the octagon, and that's a hell of a way to fucking go out, man.
Yeah, no shit.
But Henry, a majority of that fight, he looked like he just had the edge, just the ever so slight. It looked a majority of that fight. Henry just had that littlest edge ahead. He was just a little bit quicker. He was just a little bit smoother on his in and outs for striking. He was just that much better than what Barcelos was. That's not taking anything from Barcelos, because that man ate the nastiest fucking shots and just kept fucking going. Did a little head shake.
Down either. Yeah, never slowed down a bit. So absolutely props for that.
Did a quick head shake, looked back up, and got right back into it. I mean, that was a hell of a fucking performance from both of them. But Henry, he just necked it out.
Yeah, no, I'm very curious to see where Henry goes from here, because he never slowed down. He never looked the least bit tired. And he was like, it was literally like he was a half step ahead of Barcelos the entire fight. Just enough to be ahead of him and be out of his range and be out of what he was trying to do for the whole match. And it looked pretty fucking good. It's a damn good way to make your debut, I'd say. So that being said, that will roll us into the beginning of the actual pay-per-view portion of UFC 270. They opened the main card with Michael Morales debuting against Trevin Giles. This one you had to feel for him, because this was another one, much like the fight earlier, where Trevin Giles was looking great. He was doing real fucking good. And then he got just the least bit loose and gave enough of an opening that Morales cracked him. And once Morales cracked him, it was over. The first shot that Morales really hit him with just took all the fucking wind out of Trevin's sails, and there was no recovering from it. Props to Morales, man. Fucking Ecuador on the map for damn sure, but is that I'm pretty sure his coach's asshole were puckering out diamonds during that fight, because Giles was putting the fucking business to him before he cracked him. He really was. This is kind of weird to look at overall, because Trevin Giles is another one of those dudes that we talk about all the time. He cannot stay consistent to save his fucking life. One time he comes out fighting and he looks great. The next time he comes out and he just looks like dog shit. And then here we got the best of both worlds in this fight. He came out looking great, ate one big fucking shot and just wilted like a fucking daisy in the wintertime. Like, there was no coming back from it. When he got touched, it was over, man. Props to Morales for keeping that power held back while Giles was working him. But I almost feel like this fight looked worse for Giles than it did look good for Morales, the way that it ended.
So this is not the first time I've ever said this about Giles. Just gonna throw this out there. Regardless, whenever he goes into a fight and he looks real good, or whether he goes into a fight and looks real fucking shitty, whenever he gets close, his hands are on his chest. He eats shots, unnecessary shots. Just like I said last Sunday. Whenever you get close, whenever you get to a range to where you don't feel comfortable, hands to the face, glue them here. He was popping jabs from the chest, which those are very fucking effective shots if you can get them down to a smooth fucking transition from here to a pop jab. If you can do that, do it. But you're also putting yourself in a grave fucking predicament, just like Giles was yesterday, because that shot landed because his hands were on his fucking chest. Again, everybody fucking says it. Meter said it 1.5 million times. TJ said it 1.5 million times. I've said it 1.5 million times. Keep your hands on your fucking face, not your chest. The only time your hand should ever be close to here is if you know you're fighting somebody that is going to take you to the ground, because then it is that 4 inches less distance that your arms have to travel to stuff out a takedown. That is the only time your hand should ever be not here, but maybe like right here on the chin. That's my rule, at least.
Well, and the other aspect of that is that any boxing coach worth a shit will correct you until you do it on your own. Just the simplicity of shadow boxing. If you're shadow boxing from here, you're wasting time and energy. You don't need to train to guard your chest. You should always be shadow boxing from in front of your face. That way you're training your arms to be comfortable staying right fucking here. If you don't, you get too comfortable with your hands down here and you eat lots of shots like poor Trevor did.
Yeah, seriously.
No.
I mean, that was his, that right there was the only downfall that he had. He looked real loose, real relaxed, real calm, which is the Giles that shows up to put in fucking work. But his hand placement of where he was throwing shots, especially being that fucking close, he was inches away.
Yep.
Your hands need to be up. If you're a couple of feet away, your hands need to be up, because they can lean in and do a fucking quick jab to your shit and just back out of it. I mean, if you're a couple feet away, hands on the face. If not, you can be loose. Your hands can be down, but you got to be ready to fucking roll real
if you're
quick.
Clearly out of striking range, there's a little more leeway. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But when you're in a phone booth, you better glue your fucking knuckles to your cheeks, son.
Yeah. Otherwise, you ain't fucking come out like Giles. I mean, also, that was a beautiful shot that put him to the cage.
Yes, it was.
Kudos to a backpedaling shot that put him out.
That's what I said. Still, Morales definitely deserves credit, because the shot that he cracked him with, he fucking cracked him. He sure the fuck did. But
and it was a backpedal.
Giles was giving him the business up until then.
It was a backpedaling shot too. You don't see the person that takes me to was Chris Sabin. Because Chris Sabin was a backpedal god on getting a knockout. He could be, his eyes could be swollen shut, nose broken, everything's just torn to shit. He could backpedal and just throw a hook and put people out every single time. That man mastered backpedal knockouts.
Fuck yeah. But moving along from there, excuse me, that'll bring us to Cody Stamen versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. Now, two things here about this fight. One, TJ and I joked about it Thursday. But just for clarification's sake, Saeed Nurmagomedov has no relation to Khabib Nurmagomedov. We made the joke that he might share the bloodline, but not the bloodline, because the namesake is there, but he doesn't carry obviously the same family traits as the Nurmagomedovs that we're more accustomed to in the UFC. That being said, the other thing is that, to be fair, Cody Stamen makes Trevin Giles look like the epitome of consistency. Cody Stamen cannot figure out if he's going to be a wrestler or a striker from one fight to the next. And to be fair, he's decent at both, but not great at both. And until you're great at two vastly different aspects of MMA like that, you really do need to focus on one or both of them and keep improving, because we've seen Cody come out and be a great striker. We've seen Cody come out and be a great wrestler. Very seldomly have we ever seen him put the two of those together. And very seldomly, especially lately, has he had the skill he needed in the particular matchup he was in. He came out last night wanting to be a fucking striker, and it looked like his hands were going to be okay for about 4 seconds. And then he realized that, oh shit, I'm trying to strike with a grappler, and not only a grappler, but a grappler who is light years ahead of where I am. I don't think Saeed is the greatest there is by any stretch of the imagination, but Cody Stamen came out sloppy as fuck from the get-go, and it took Nurmagomedov less than a minute to wrap that motherfucker up with one of the smoothest neck yokes we have seen in recent memory. Saeed Nurmagomedov had Cody Stamen yoked up so fucking hard before he rolled all the way over. Without thinking of defending, Cody's hand was already up, ready to tap. He was already considering giving up before he was considering fighting from the position that Nurmagomedov had him in so quick. That neck got yanked and secured literally that fucking quick. So Cody is very much in a shit or get off the pot situation here now, whereas Nurmagomedov literally didn't even break a fucking sweat and had Cody Stamen panic tapping very fucking quickly. So I'm curious to see what happens when they put Nurmagomedov against somebody who genuinely is a good, well-rounded striker and grappler. Not necessarily a fucking, savant in the wrestling world, but give him somebody who's genuinely a little more consistently well-rounded than Stamen is, and I think we'll get to see a little bit better of a test. But for what they booked him against last night, props to Nurmagomedov, man. He made fucking easy work of Cody Stamen.
Yeah, fucking very much so. And the transition that got him to the point to where he could wrap Stamen's neck up, and let me get the official time here. 47 seconds. That was a nice fucking just setup. I'm not gonna say that was meant to be, but that's the way it fucking worked out. And that was a nice fucking transition from the body the body kick going into the fucking spinning back fist and just riding that out because his arm got caught up,
yanked in there.
riding that out like he did. That shows that he definitely has a good wherewithal of what's going on as he's doing something to ride with it. And it
showed good fight IQ in the moment for sure.
That is a trait that can get you pretty fucking far in fighting, as long as the skills and technique is there to back up an IQ like that. But that was impressive to see to see him. My arm's here, in a second his arm is already wrapping around to take him to the ground. It was pretty fucking impressive to see how quick he realized that opportunity was there and he took it. That was impressive.
Yep, I absolutely agree. But moving along from there, that will bring us to probably, in my opinion, the least entertaining fight of the entire fucking card. As with every time this fucking clown gets brought out to fucking shuck and jive, we called it going in that this was going to be a fucking shit show, that he wanted to look flashy. He doesn't give a fuck about fighting, and clearly that's exactly what happened again. This situation, I generally feel kind of bad for Andre Filio. This is another one where this fight got booked and then rebooked for Filio to make his debut against this clown for some fucking reason. And to be fair, Filio clipped him a couple times and at one point almost knocked Pereira the fuck out. But much with every single fucking time, with the exception of the first, thank you, Tristan Connolly, I will never forget you for it. We have seen this clown get trotted out by the UFC. He literally tries to backflip and jumping knee and fucking sambo kick his fucking way into the W column. And for whatever reason, his capoeira kicks that don't fucking land seem to mystify the goddamn judges. And he got a fucking unanimous decision in a fight that could have arguably been a draw, because neither one of them really did enough to count as a win. And Pereira's backflip and showy bullshit literally had no impact on the fight because nothing flashy that he threw fucking landed, as usual. I generally feel worse for Filio than I do for fucking I feel worse for Filio for getting the loss on a UD against that fucking clown than I would feel happy for the clown getting the UD in this situation.
Yeah. Now, my only thing is, I think Andre Filio, I think I kind of fucked with this. Debut fight in the UFC, so you have way added pressure. 2, being a debut with what's supposed to be the best of the best, having somebody so showboaty and trying to get a highlight reel knockout, all that fucking weird shit that he is doing, that's going to really throw a motherfucker off guard.
Yep.
So I say this looks worse on fucking Pereira than it does on Filio, because you couldn't knock a debut fighter out. That kind of makes you look kind
all
of like
that
a
flashy shit, all that fucking flips and all that fucking nonsense, and he couldn't even knock out a guy who's never even fought in the fucking UFC before.
Yeah, that looks way worse on you. This is a debut fighter. Yes, he has prior experience, clearly, that got him to the point where he's in the UFC. But this is a debut fighter, man. You should be able to style the fuck out on him. But you failed to land really any clean, good, solid fucking shots.
Yeah, nothing significant.
Like you failed to do so. Why are you in the UFC? Go to PFL. Use your showboaty.
Welterweight Sean O'Malley.
True. use your weird fucking flippy shit and go hang out with fucking Showtime and fucking PFL and do flying fucking kicks running off the cage.
Right, take that bullshit to PFL and try for a milli with it.
Like, fuck, man. I think this looks far worse on Pierre's side than it does Filio. That man got the shit into the stick. Got to put somebody that is the type, that is the flashy, trying to get a fucking highlight reel knockout, and keep my name relevant for the next like 6 months while I do fucking nothing with my life except train capoeira kicks that hit nothing. I think he really got the shit in the stick. I think if this was just a normal fucking fighter that didn't have that type of mentality, I think this would have been a very fucking interesting fight. I am very interested to see where Filio goes in the future. I am very interested to see, because he had some moments to where he looked like he was putting some shit together.
Yeah, he held his own pretty well against a fucking clown like that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely very interested to see what he does in his next outing.
Yep, likewise. Absolutely. So with that being said, that will bring us into the co-main event of the evening and the first of two title fights up for grabs in the first pay-per-view of the 2022 calendar year for the UFC. The rematch of rematches on a rematch. Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo 3. I gotta say, coming into this, I mentioned it Thursday with TJ. It just looked like Moreno has gotten himself a little bit of that silk sheet lifestyle. You could tell that even though he says all the right things, if you watch his training footage, if you watch how he was training, it just seemed like he had gotten a little comfortable in such a short time with that belt around his waist. And when the fight came out, you got to see a little bit of that put into action. We did not see the same Brandon Moreno out there that we have seen the last two times against Figueiredo. And to be fair, we didn't see the same Figueiredo either, but it was much closer to the same Figueiredo with some changes than it was to the same Moreno with some changes, if that makes sense. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination willing to contribute that change to where he has been training for this camp. What I will say is that Figueiredo came out much, much, much more patient than we had seen him in either of the two previous fights. And it almost looked like his patience that he's adopted forced Moreno into being overly anxious. You could see Moreno swinging at shots and throwing big swooping misses where Figueiredo wasn't even moving. He didn't even, check out of place or step back. He just let Moreno swing because he was so out of place when he let it go. He was trying so hard to force shots that just weren't there, that in the end, it ended up costing him the belt. Figueiredo, to be fair to Moreno, didn't do anything spectacular or over the top or just fight securing. He just overall was more patient and more accurate and just outworked what seemed like an overly eager Brandon Moreno and took his goddamn belt back. I don't think this is one of those things where Moreno lost and now he's got to go back to the bottom of the stack and he's a nobody now and he's got to completely rebuild. I think that this leaves Moreno still in the top 5, maybe still top 3 even, but I think this is definitive, in my opinion, that not only the 5-round unanimous decision, but the draw that should have been a win to start the whole thing combined with this, and the fact that Moreno won the last round because of a jiu-jitsu mistake that had nothing to do with the longevity of war. I think that pretty much, at least for most people's sake, puts the trilogy to rest in the favor of Figueiredo. It's 2-1 in a trilogy fight right now. Even then, though, knowing that this is one apiece and a draw, Figueiredo said after the fight, hey, if that crybaby wants to do it again, we can run it back a 4th time and I'll go to Mexico to fight him so he knows I'm not trying to take any advantage out of this situation. I'm not worried about Brandon Moreno. If he wants to keep cry his way back into the rematch, we'll go to Mexico and do it. But this is my belt. And I 100% agree with him. That is Figgy's goddamn belt. He earned it by beating the shit out of Benavidez twice before he ever even got put in the Moreno situation, which, again, if you look back, I still don't think Moreno should have been in that fucking title fight to begin with, because Royval hurt his shoulder. Moreno didn't do anything to his shoulder to hurt him to get Moreno in that situation to begin with. But it all squared away in the end. The belt is back where I feel it belongs, in the hands of Figgy Smalls, where it should have stayed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really gonna go back into the shit that happened before. I think that, I will say Moreno had the fucking edge to get the belt the first time. Fucking good job, because you put work in to get Figueiredo in the position to where you can get him to tap. That is something that is pretty fucking hard to do, and not that many people get the fucking recognition, especially in a championship belt fight. Most people don't get that opportunity and get the W on a submission. It just doesn't happen very often. I mean, and you're the first native born Mexican to be a fucking champion, that's something that's fucking massive for you and for the fucking country of Mexico. That's a fucking that's
one of those things
accomplishment
they
of
can
its
never
own.
take away,
Yeah,
regardless of what happens going forward. That's history. That's Brandon Moreno's forever. He's got that no one can ever take that away from him. He's the first Mexican-born UFC champion, and he earned his goddamn belt to get it too. So
yeah,
that's
that is
an absolute undeniable fact, feather in his cap.
that is something that is not going anywhere. You will always have that fucking legacy with your fucking name. And that's something to be fucking proud of. But this fight, I absolutely agree. I think he was kind of high in his own supply a little bit. I think he was riding high and just lost focus. That being said, I also think Figgy lost focus a little bit, training with Triple C a little bit too much. I
completely agree.
I didn't get to say it. I didn't get to say it last week. This previous week, and I really wanted to on the news and recent events. Did y'all bring up Henry Cejudo's fight bullshit?
No.
I-
Mainly because despite all the shit that he has talked, and he has talked a metric ton of shit about Volkanovski, about fucking Dillashaw, about everybody. He said he'd come back at 170 to fight Kamaru Usman. That's all well and good. I get that you're trying to keep that I'm still a fighter thing going, but at the same time, we also had confirmed he's been out of the USADA testing pool for nearly a year now and has not made any mention of them that he has any indication of getting back in the pool. So this is literally just him being a Twitter hound. So we didn't even cover it.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm happy. I didn't miss the opportunity to talk shit on him. Just trying to stay fucking relevant out there in the world.
No, Dana White even laid it out flat. He said,
yeah, I love it.
I
love
get
Dana
that
for
Henry Cejudo is trying to keep himself relevant and keep everybody's name in his mouth. But if Henry Cejudo really wants to get any of these big name fights that he keeps calling for, there's a real 2-step process to get it done. One, you call Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard and you tell him you want the fight. And two, you call USADA and you get back in the fucking testing pool. Until both of those are done, anything Henry Cejudo says is just Twitter chat.
I love Dana for that. The way he said it was just savagery of Dana of old.
It was very matter of fact.
Yeah. But with this fight, I think both of them were just off a little bit. I will say, they had that Figgy Moreno one attitude about themselves to where like Moreno would pop Figgy with a fucking good one, and Figgy would be like, "Okay, that was a pretty good one," like smile and give him that recognition. And both of them would take a second.
There was a couple times where you saw that happen. You saw Moreno would crack him, and Figgy would just smile and then like nod at him, like, "Yeah, now we're fighting."
Yeah, that I love to see that sort of attitude in the middle of a fight. I don't care if it's a championship fight or if it's a debut fight. I love that attitude. That is
Max Holloway moment where you're like, right fucking here.
That is the heart of a fucking fighter. And it, like, there was one moment to where you could even see Figgy talking to him after he got clocked good with a right hook. And the first, holy shit, what the hell was that? Round 2 with the Figgy in the air on the back to the ground to actual position to roll out. That was what the fuck 5 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely fucking Mountain Dew fueled mongoose rolling in there.
That was wild, and both of them went with it like we're dancing now. We're just having a ballet and we're rolling over on top of each other. That was pretty fucking. What the fuck is this? I didn't expect to see anything weird and funny like that. That was pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, I will say Moreno didn't give it away by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he severely underestimated Figueiredo, and that's a dumb move. That's a dumb move for anybody to make. And Figgy's got his belt back now because of it. So good on you, Figgy Smalls, man. Good on you, Figgy Smalls. That being said, though, that will bring us to the main event, the second of the two titles and the namesake for the event itself, UFC 270, Ngannou versus Gane. Francis Ngannou defending the heavyweight title against his former training partner, Cyril Gane. This fight was both surprising and frustrating. It was surprising in the fact that for the better part of the entirety of the fight, Cyril Gane was dancing around Francis Ngannou and just picking at him at fucking will, and Francis could not do a goddamn thing to stop it or hinder it. The frustrating part for me is that the biggest takeaway I had from last night's heavyweight title fight wasn't that Cyril Gane absolutely has 5-round dealing with Francis Ngannou level of strength endurance in him. It's not that Cyril Gane is extremely well-rounded and moves like a guy half his fucking size, because we knew all of that shit. The biggest takeaway for me from last night was that despite Kamaru Usman being in his corner, not just for this camp, but almost permanently at this point, Francis has taken less to adapting his wrestling like Kamaru is trying to teach him, and more to using the fact that he's a 270-pound wet blanket. Because he wasn't out grappling Cyril Gane, but he was wet blanketing the absolute shit out of Cyril Gane last night. Cyril Gane got the better of, I would say, 80% of all striking exchanges on the feet. But to his credit, Francis Ngannou learned to take down, and not just a sloppy grab. He learned legitimate double legs. He learned to pick up shuffle. He learned a fucking back arch. He learned a strong fucking whizzer that he nearly back over fucking Cyril Gane with at one point. But the biggest factor for me is the fact that despite all of that, he used the wet blanket more than anything. And in my opinion, that's what kept the belt around Francis Ngannou's waist. That's what kept Cyril from leaving with that heavyweight strap, was not the fact that Francis learned to take down, that Francis can do a legitimate double leg now, but Francis understands the power of being a wet blanket when you're the bigger, larger guy, because when he was on the ground, nothing Francis did was threatening to Cyril. And as a matter of fact, at several points, Cyril Gane was threatening a Kimura sweep from the bottom against Francis because Francis didn't know what he was doing. He was quite literally just laying in a weird, almost side control on top of Cyril Gane and just laying there. He wasn't advancing the position. He wasn't looking for a submission, wasn't landing ground and pound, which anyone would be screaming for him to do as the Predator, one of the literal hardest hitting UFC heavyweights in history. Why you wouldn't be thinking to at least rain some hammer shots when you've got top position, I don't know. But to me, Francis literally just used his wet blanket ability to keep his belt. And to that end, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm not even the least bit sad that he might be leaving the UFC, despite the fact that he just won, because he has no intention to renegotiate his contract because he doesn't feel the UFC will value him. I say with air quotes for those listening. Genuinely, I am 100% in the Cyril Gane boat here. I hope that Francis Ngannou stays in the UFC for nothing else than to see Cyril Gane get that rematch back, because I'm willing to bet, based on what we've seen in the involvement of both of them, Cyril Gane would easily adapt and overcome that wet blanket technique in the next fight, where I don't think Francis really has much more he can learn and put into his toolbox. He clearly doesn't want to add a full rounded wrestling pedigree in there. He just learned what he needed to get by and then implemented it. But we've seen Cyril Gane has those techniques and just didn't expect that clearly from Francis, because it wasn't anything anyone seen him do before. So I think at this point, Francis is really running out of tricks to add to his resume, whereas I think Cyril still has room to improve on things he already knows. But none of it really is going to matter if we find out coming this week that Ngannou just isn't going to stay in the UFC. I make a point to say it all the time, and I'll say it again. Credit where credit is due. Francis came with the belt. Francis left with the belt. That being said, what happened in between those two moments, not as impressive as he might lead you to believe. Not for me, anyway.
Yeah. One takeaway for me out of this, which everybody was real suspect of, Cyril Gane could take a fucking shot and a half. He took fucking shots that would put anybody to sleep 5 times over.
Yes.
Fucking body shots, kicks, hooks, jabs. A normal person, their neck would be fucking broken and their body would be fucking caved in upon itself. That's a tough man. That's a tough big man. My thing is, this was a fucking letdown of a fight. Like the biggest letdown. I was looking forward to this card because the pedigree and the way they stacked the fights. I think they did it fucking beautifully. There was so much hype just going on with the outcomes that were possible. Because everybody knows that Cyril's a fucking fast man. Like Meter said, he moves like a man that's twice his size. So he's real elusive. He's hard to get your fucking hands on, especially if you're trying to fucking hit him. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. And really, like, Ngannou was just walking. He didn't want to chase him. He wasn't trying to cut corners off. If Cyril was circling out left, he wouldn't try to cut it off, or he was just there. It's like he was just there trying to get a fucking participation award.
Yeah.
That's really what it looked like to me. I will give him credit for being a knockout artist and taking the time to properly learn wrestling takedowns. I will give him that, because those were fucking good. Those were some good fucking takedowns. I just think I expected more whenever he got to the ground. I expected transition to half guard, full guard, rain down, hammer fists. It's something. You're a man of that size with the time, and a person like fucking Marty from Nebraska in your corner helping you with wrestling. I expected to see some transition work, and I expected to see an attempt of a fucking half mount or a full mount, and just raining hammer fist breaking Cyril Gane's nose. That's what I was thinking. That's what I wanted to see. In that moment, I was like, ooh, let's see transition work. And he's just Nurmagomedov laying on top of somebody. That was a fucking disappointment and a half. That really was.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That being said, though, we did somehow manage to, despite being one of the most disappointing pay-per-views in recent memory, get a normal set of bonuses after the fight, though. Despite the fact that it was not Dana White who issued said bonuses, very clearly still salty at Francis Ngannou. Dana White not only did not put the belt on Francis, Mick Maynard had to do that, but did not show up to the press conference after the fights at all. And that's one of Dana White's favorite things in the world, is to be able to sit up on that table, tell you exactly what the gate was and how much money they have made that night off pay-per-view and how many records they broke with views and all that shit. Dana White was not there at all, did not even show up to the post-fight press conference, was out the building when the Francis fight ended, literally. So there was that. But somehow, despite all that craziness, we did get a regular fight of the night and then 2 performance of the night bonuses. Fight of the night very clearly went to Figueiredo versus Moreno. That was absolutely one of the best fights of the evening. I absolutely agree with it getting fight of the night. My issue takes place in the performance of the night bonuses. Saeed Nurmagomedov, who it's hard to deny that motherfucker earned himself $50K, but the other performance of the night bonus went to Vanessa Demopolis for the early prelims. How you give a performance to a girl who was getting her ass handed to her and then managed to come back and think that that's valid for some reason, I don't understand. And
Matt Fravolba.
Like, yeah, how are you going to just ignore Matt Fravolba steamrolling his way through the craziest first round we have ever fucking seen and give it to her? I mean, at this point, even the Morales over Trevin Giles fight makes more sense than giving it to Demopolis. The most noteworthy thing that she did in the entire evening was jump in Joe Rogan's arms. But again, you can't try to apply logic to a UFC problem. It never works. It never does. That being said, though, that is all we have got for this particular episode. That will wrap up our recap of last night's UFC 270. The first pay-per-view is in the books for 2022. If you guys enjoyed what we do around here, the breakdowns, the recaps, all the shit talking shenanigans, fight announcements that we do, we are here every Thursday, 9:30-ish Central Time. YouTube.com/I'm No Joe. If you don't want to or don't have the ability to be there live with us on Thursday nights, the I'm No Joe podcasts are also released in all audio format the week after they air live on YouTube at anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. You can get them in all audio format through your podcast consumption platform of choice. That being said, I'm No Joe is on basically all social media platforms that are relevant: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all audio through Anchor. We also, if you notice a little scrolling bar down at the bottom here, have our own Discord server where you can come and check out the news that doesn't make it to the show, ask viewer questions, find out when we go live for sure, because all notifications are posted over there. And the biggest part is the newest chip we've got here, our very own I'm No Joe Reddit subthread. Subcategory? Thread? I don't remember how they call that. YouTube. Reddit.com/r/I'm No Joe. Come over there, drop a meme, talk some shit. We're all good. But if you want to support what we do around here, the best way to do that, patreon.com/I'm No Joe, gives you access to the unaired and literally unairable footage we've got, gives you a glimpse behind the curtain, and helps us do what we do around here. The biggest point, if you like what we do, I don't care if you give us a thumbs up or not. It doesn't matter, because according to YouTube, if you want to show them that you like us, watch more videos. YouTube algorithm now counts videos watched higher rated than thumbs up or thumbs down. So if you want to help the show, youtube.com/I'm No Joe, dig back in the library. We have 4 years worth of coverage for every single major MMA event in those 4 years. We have not missed a single major event. We do like thumbs up, though. And if you don't want to miss an episode, you want to make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss one. That being said, if you are dead set against what we do and you think we're just a couple of idiots talking out our ass, first off, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast here? Second off, give us a thumbs down and fuck off. We're not going to dispute it anyway, so we'll call it good. But that is all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, folks, thank you for coming along, RJ, and don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye?